Hi, today we're going to learn how to use VPN to stay secure and private online. Wow, this is a tough job. Just kidding. When you use NordVPN, all it takes is just a single click. See for yourself. Click, and you're browsing securely on public Wi-Fi. Click, your ISP can't see what you do online. Click, and you're in a different country. Well, virtually. Any device you have there, NordVPN has you covered. Everything else is just details. But if you care to know more, NordVPN has more than 5,000 servers all over the world. It protects your sensitive data with advanced encryption, shields you from malware and phishing sites, and keeps no logs of your online activity.
Click link in the description and get 68% discount for your first order. General admission. Decide if the New York State Museum is the best choice for your family. There are many other attractions nearby, too. While it is within blocks of the New York State Capitol Building and Governor's Mansion in Albany, you will also find, down the hall, an entrance to elevator that will lead you up to the 42nd floor observation deck of the Erastus Corning Tower North. This observation allows you to see for many miles, including sights of the northern portions of Albany and points north, including Saratoga Springs, as well as parts of Schenectady to the west if you look rather closely. Alongside that, you also have several museums and planetariums in the nearby city of Schenectady, such as the smaller Schenectady Museum/My and Planetarium, with several shows daily. You'll find a mess of AHL Albany Devils and College League hockey and college basketball games at the Times Union Center, with occasional appearances by the Harlem Globetrotters, along with several opera and performing arts performances at the A Good Walk from the New York State Museum. Near the New York State Museum, you'll also find the only restored World War Roman II destroyer escort, called the USS Slater, that you can go visit. It's often overlooked as a sight to see, but they provide tours. As long as you go at the right time, they are open for 6 hours for 5 days of the week, Wednesday through Sunday. Albany is about 2+1/2 hours by train away from New York City and its major sites. However, the Albany Rensselaer Amtrak station, the only passenger train that departs for the city from here, is across the Hudson River in Rensselaer, NY, but you'd have to take a taxi or other ride-sharing programs such as Lyft or Uber to get to the train station. Once there, you can board the Empire Service train to New York City or surrounding areas just north of it, including such places as Croton, Harmon, Yonkers, and the Bronx, among the many others. Albany's train station is a terminus of the Empire Line heading south to New York City, but is also a central connector for other lines coming from the north and west, sometimes from the east, but not often. Travel to New York City by regular car may take more than 4–5 hours depending on traffic. Be aware of the museum's hours. Most often, this museum is open Tuesday through Sunday 9:30 am and 5 am. However, it is closed on Mondays and for a few holidays, including Independence Day July 4, Thanksgiving, Christmas Day December 24, and New Year's Day January 1. Drive to the New York State Museum if you'd like. Although routes will vary if you don't like interstates, the New York State Museum is inside the New York State Cultural Education Center at 222 Madison Avenue, Albany, NY 12230. As you'll read in the tips section of this article, you can drive there using a ride-sharing program and omit the parking fees and hassle of walking to and from the museum from the parking lots. Park near the museum. This state museum has two main parking areas, both labeled P3 on the north and P3 on the south. Don't stop anywhere in Pone South unless an employee of the building or grounds tell you it's okay. There are signs prohibiting you from doing so. This area is a one-way area and isn't wide enough to accommodate any more than one car through it at any one given time. You can stand your car to unload passengers under the overpass near the museum near the traffic light, but don't attempt to park on the street near or at the traffic light. It's illegal to park there, and you will be towed if you do. There's really no place to turn around to head back the other way until you venture around the area. so don't try unloading any passengers coming from this side if you ride down Madison Ave while trying to get to the parking area. Both the Madison Ave and Empire State Plaza lots fill up quite quickly and don't empty as fast as the cars and people came in. People tend to dawdle after they park their cars during the weekdays. You'd be lucky if you got a spot in either lot between 10 and 3 p.m, so be prepared to circle and wait for quite a long time. Walk to the museum. This walk may differ from the location of each of the parking areas that exist that you may not have come from for your visit. If you are coming from the Madison Ave lot, you'll see the white building directly in front of you, and you won't have to cross the busy Swan Street to get to the other side. The side with all 4 hanging signs is the side you will want to be on and the side where the museum is located at. Decide what portion of the museum you'd like to take in. This museum is focused on 2 floors. While most museum goers take in the first floor, don't miss the 4th floor gallery with the free New York State Museum carousel, too. There's a tiny cafeteria on the 2nd floor if you can take the escalators up to get there. First floor exhibits and main lobby. The museum calls these sections Gallery Space East, Adirondack Wilderness, Native Peoples of New York, Gallery Space West, New York Metropolis, World Trade Center, Rescue, Recovery Response devoted to the 9/11/2001 disaster, and Fire Engine Hall. If you'd like to bypass the Native Peoples area and Gallery Space East, you can cut through the Birds of New York area to the New York Metropolis area. However, the Native Peoples area is well worth a visit to get a really accurate picture of how New York State's Native people lived. Unless you're on limited time at the museum, try to stop in for a few minutes. The big gallery space near the back changes its exhibits rather seasonally. However, there are a few items that never change. It last changed in 2001 when the Mastodon was taken apart and moved from the entrance location to there. Take in how the main lobby/pre-museum is set up. As you arrive, you'll walk into the building and see this rather long, grandiose information desk. There will be one entrance on your left which leads you starting with the Adirondack Wilderness section, and one entrance on your right which starts near the New York State Museum shop, Fire Engine Hall, the World Trade Center exhibit, and the New York Metropolis area of the museum of this desk. If you look around the lobby, you'll see how the rest of the museum is laid out. Towards the back of this, you'll initially see escalators that take you up to alternate levels, as well as a walkway to a pair of elevators that can take you up to the 4th floor exhibits, along with leading you to a walkway to where you'll find the restrooms and student center by special written invitation/permission only. Head towards the Adirondack Wilderness exhibit. Here's your first main stop. This area features information devoted to the wildlife of the state of New York. Look at the various fossils that were pulled from fossil beds in New York. These are just outside the Discovery Place area. This exhibit contains 2 slabs of stone along with several wall plaques that show some of the fossils pulled out of some of the fossil beds in New York State. Research the various camping equipment that is traditionally used in New York. You can also see the inside of the traditional tent that is used on a New Yorker's campsite just around the bend on the same island of stuff, but the one thing that tends to draw people is the canoe. This area, as denoted by the New York State Museum map, is just called camping, and the canoe is the symbol for this area. This area is near the Rondack Chair and the Adirondack Recreation area of the museum. Look at the various walls worth of minerals found in New York State in the Minerals of New York section of the Adirondack Wilderness section. Look at stuffed wildlife up close. You can look at things such as their moose or deer that they have there. Look at the Colvin Signal Tower. Try to find the rectangular New York State historical marker sign near the Minerals of New York exhibit. This is often a place to find an amateur photographer taking a selfie or a group shot. Historical markers like the one you see inside the museum, called State Land, dot the landscape of New York where the area has some historical significance. You'll find this marker near the Colvin Signal Tower exhibit. Get a view of the inside of the WTC family trailer. It features some signs that were used as remembrances of family members lost following the September 11th. However, in respect to those who died, avoid photographing the inside of this trailer. Visit the section on lumber and the New York lumber industry's history in this section of the museum. View the 1850s era portable steam engine. This is found as you walk down the path leading from the Native People display. It's near the entrance to Birds of New York. Contribute to the Elk Pond Wishing Well if you'd like to donate a coin to the museum. Inside Adirondack Wilderness behind your back when facing the Elk Pond, you'll also find an area devoted to logging. If you'd like to donate paper cash instead, you'll find a special box for this near the information desk in the main lobby. Take a look at the Adirondack Recreation exhibit. Although you'll see a 1921 Franklin 9B runabout posing towards the back of the Adirondack Wilderness area, you can read the sign and find out a little about what it took to get moving in the Adirondacks in the early 1920s. Look at the earthquake exhibit. Check out the text scroller sign above the static signs of the exhibit. It displays what will seem like real-time text of earthquakes in New York State. However, the text it displays are information to earthquakes within a given period of time before the current date. You can find this on the wall right before the entrance to Birds of New York on the Adirondack Wilderness side. Steer clear of Kids Cove. It seems like it's always closed. It's got black curtain up to prevent people from entering in without permission. Play with your kids in the Discovery Place area near the fossils exhibit instead. Here you'll find an area devoted to kids' play activities, including a huge checkers mat with large checkers pieces, as well as many other kid-friendly pieces that kids will want to play and interact with. Look into more gallery space. That includes the Huxley Theater and the West Gallery. Although in May the West Gallery is free to Bank of America debit card holders, it can easily be passed up if you don't like art very much. Look around the Native People of New York's area as you pass near the Mastodon. Visit with the Woolly Mammoth first and work your way back to the Iroquois Longhouse if you came in from the entrance near Adirondack Wilderness. Beware that the mammoth might initially be scary for young children, but you can reassure them it's nothing to fear. As you turn the corner from the mammoth, then you can head up the stairs or ramp to see the rest of this area. Visit the inside of the Iroquois Longhouse here. Go inside if you'd like and listen to the traditional story ceremony that is told at the one head of the longhouse. As signs say, do not place or climb onto the beds outside the enclosed space. Doing so may make the longhouse topple over and down. Look at the scale smaller replica of an Iroquois longhouse village. This is near the artifacts behind the glass along the wall. Look around the Native Peoples area for several different artifacts that were uncovered inside this time period in the Contemporary Native American Crafts exhibit. As you walk past, you can pass by Birds of New York on your right, as well as the fossils exhibit. If you look way off into the distance, you can also spot Discovery Place on the other side. However, you might not be able to see it with the pillars and signage in the way from the Birds of New York section. If you come across the Algonquian wigwam in your trek, you've gone too far. There is one bench near the Mastodon, so you can take in the splendor. As you'll read in the one corner of the display near the Mastodon, people often confuse the words mastodon with mammoth. The exhibit describes the differences, including some historical differences in their epochs. Come out from the Native Peoples area and take a slight right into the Birds of New York area. This area contains stuffed birds of New York, including the blue jay, house wren, several different sparrows, orioles, and many types of duck-like birds. If you walk towards the area called fossils, you've walked in the wrong direction and have to retreat back the other way. There are plenty of large benches to sit down on in this area, but you will still have a little more to go if you'd like to experience all there is to see and do at this museum. The bird watcher will get some excellent views of birds up close. Understand the makeup of this area. This area is filled with birds behind glass panes. Down a hallway are 6 sections. Then there's the center section, which has a pair of doors, which, if requested, will lead you to the Student Center. 5 of the 6 sections have 4 panes, 2 panes directly to the right, and 1 pane to the left and right of the other 2 main panes. Visit the New York metropolis area. This area is diverse and takes up the majority of your time in this museum. Walk inside the Walk Through New York. You'll have to either go up several stairs, or if you can signal a museum employee for help, read the New York City Subway affiliated 1979 subway map and motif on the wall nearest the subway car, and check out the many other similar train and subway information placards on the walls, including a copy of the subway maps as they appeared in the 1970s and 1980s. Imagine yourself rocking to and fro as the subway car turned a corner under New York City. Look at the newsstand. Although the magazines it features are rather new, Time magazine is of a 2013 edition. The classic newsstand has played an integral role with New York State. Look around for the scale Grand Central Terminal diorama. It includes a rather accurate representation of the track system running underneath its terminal. These exhibits all talk about life on the streets of New York City, including one area that talks about the effects of schooling on children, as well as an area focused on the immigration experiences during those times. You can find this diorama right next to the stairs leading up to the subway car. Visit the replica street set of Sesame Street. If you are or ever have been a fan of Sesame Street, or have kids who have a will or want to know the Sesame Street characters, don't pass this by. Here, you'll find the neighborhood near where the Robinson family sometimes entered and exited, as well as where Oscar and his trash can is. The area itself is barricaded off, but you can watch the TV where it is showing a video montage of information relating to the show. Although you can see this area from the top of the steps of the subway car, it is best you see this up close for the full feeling of the exhibit. Pass by the older style elevator and cherish in the memories of this exhibit. Although it is still on display, it's no longer in use. If you compare the place you stand to what is on the map you receive, you'll recognize that you have entered Skyscraper City. Find information about the South Street Seaport and its effect on the New York City economy. Near tenement life, there's a small area denoted by a placard about something that seemed to have nothing to do with tenement life, but NYSM officials wanted to group them together for some reason. This reason is still unknown among the many who visit here. View the making of skyscrapers in the Skyscraper City section of New York Metropolis. View the Harlem in the 1920s exhibit. Walk through the one-way Bitter Hope exhibit. This is a chance to recognize and remember Harlem's Holocaust victims. However, as signs say, this is an exhibit that has a one-way direction of people flow from entrance to exit. Try to have a love for the glamorous shopping districts on Fifth Ave as you walk through the exhibit describing the life and times of this lovely area. Look at the display case about life on Millionaires Row, if you have a chance. Look for the small indigenous Algonquin wigwam on the main pathway. This is found just before you enter the entrance to Gallery Space East. Although not too popular a place for pictures or a selfie, it is a decent spot for pictures. If you've passed the Weitzman stoneware exhibit down the main pathway, you've gone too far. Read about recreational cycling. This exhibit covers some of the bicycles that were used, and is found just before the ring road turns to head towards the whale skeleton. View the skeleton of a large 38-foot Atlantic right whale skeleton near the Open Spaces exhibit right next to the South Street Seaport area. You'll find it just after you pass through the porch near the recreational cycling portico overhang near the NYC tenements area. Look for the 1920s neighborhood schoolroom. This is an important stopping place for some. Read the list of questions asked to incoming immigrants at what is now Ellis Island in the New York metropolis area near Skyscraper City. This section is tricky to find, and some of this is set back in from the main path, so keep an eye out for it. Look at the large signage of the West 59th Street Pier near the entrance to the World Trade Center location. This used to have a placard nearby designating what it was. It no longer has one, but takes a large prominence on the offline map of the museum. Read up about exactly how the layers are set up in the New York City underground levels in the poster about this. You'll find this directly across from the entrance to the World Trade Center exhibit, just before the Pontiac automobile. Don't miss the WTC exhibit. This is an interesting place to obtain information on this horrible tragedy that killed so many people on that horrific day of September 11, 2001. Check out the large piece steel that was pulled from the World Trade Center. There's also a fire engine that was pulled from the rubble near the World Trade Center on September 11th, as demolished as it was. Look at the fire truck that got smashed during the attacks of 9/11. The fire truck that's there was once used at Ground Zero and was pulled from the rubble of the disaster. Read the long billboard describing the timeline events if you have a set of tissues nearby and aren't generally affected by the 9/11 disaster. It can be facing the driver's side of the fire truck. Also found during smaller insets, you'll spot respirators and fire hoses once used during the cleanup that came from this fire engine crew. In the front of the cabin, you will find a billboard describing the people who worked and passed away from this firehouse. This may not affect too many people. Bring a box of tissues if you are greatly affected having had a loved one who died in this disaster. Take a look at the Amory Cares doorway that was used at the Hilltop Cafe at the Fresh Kills landfill, where the remnants of the 9/11 disaster were transported to. It was signed by many of those who went through it and into the evidence recovery room during the last few days of the sort. Take a look at the Facts and Figures placard, which described the building's little-known facts. It also houses information about a chronology of the buildings and site plan. You can find this placard on the wall that is labeled World Trade Center and has a quote dated April 4, 1973 just below it. There are some oddball facts here, so take several moments to read them. Some of them really will want to make some people laugh and snicker to themselves. Look at the newspaper headlines that describe the World Trade Center 9/11 attacks. These come from all around the United States, including Sacramento, Anchorage, Cincinnati, Omaha, New York City, New York Times, and Richmond. Look at the smashed-in police car's door of one of New York City's finest. View two pews put together side by side with the center taken out, which were used as the refuge site after the attacks from St. Paul's Cathedral on September 11, 2001. The museum was able to obtain two pews and has been on display since 2015. On signs in the area, you'll find a placard note about the fencing that was given to the museum. However, this fencing is no longer on display. Look at all the smaller items they pulled out of the rubble at the Fresh Kills landfill. Such things include name badges, keys, door plaques, and much, much more. Some of this can be found on the long side wall opposite the fire truck. The others can be found in various locations throughout this section of the museum. Look at some of the signage on the walls of this area. These include signs used in the rubble sorting area of the debris site. Interact with the touchscreen monitors in the room right next to the Collateral Damage movie. View the small Collateral Damages movie in the theater area. Although the chairs have seen better days, they are still okay to use since they are cushiony. The movie is a little long, however. Visit Fire Engine Hall. Although much larger years ago, this area houses 11 historical fire engines, one fire-related item, and one 1999 Ford-branded ambulance that was used in New York City shortly after 9/11/2001. Although you'll have to pass into the New York metropolis area in back of the World Trade Center exhibit to get there at first, it's marked as actually being its own separate area on the map. It's large and filled with older historical licensed ambulances and fire engines galore, including one ambulance that was given to the museum in 2001 following the loss of the World Trade Center. It also has several older-style fire engines from the 1800s onwards. There are multiple fire engines being viewed here dating as far back as a 1791 tug bought by Troy, NY, but was originally a product of Philadelphia, PA, and an 1875 parade carriage. However, these aren't the only fire engines and equipment on display here, and most are dating back from the 19th and 20th centuries. Look for the ambulance. That is surely an oddball to the area. The 1999 Ford ambulance is found just before the ring walkway goes back out to the WTC exhibit. Exit out the door and towards the museum shop, crossing through the main entrance one last time. Keep the museum shop in mind for later, if you plan on going up to the fourth floor gallery as well. The museum shop is small, but contains quite a lot of items in a lot of different travel-oriented categories. Prices can be a tad on the expensive side, and the products for sale vary over time. Fourth floor exhibits. Ride the elevator or escalator up to the fourth floor. There are a bank of 3 elevators in the center alcove behind the main lobby's information desk. However, if you desire more space and can tolerate going up an escalator a flight or two, you will find an additional 3 elevators starting on the 3rd floor. On the 2nd floor, you'll find a rather small cafeteria. The selection of snacks they serve here are rather limited, but it's a decent option if you're keen to refuel. Take a ride on the New York State Museum carousel, or even multiple rides. Take a right off the elevator and walk straight back. If you pass by 1931, Pierce Arrow/Hansom Cab, and the Plough/Wall Street area, you'd be going the right way to get there. As a general rule of thumb, rides begin boarding every 8 minutes, 15 minutes, according to the in-museum museum map found online, but if you ask the carousel attendant, they should be able to tell you how long you'll need to wait to board. Rides on the New York State Museum carousel are free, but they give you a chance to donate some money to the museum fund through donation boxes near the entrance to the carousel. They try to use every dollar to spend on improving the exhibits and gallery space. You can donate if you'd like. Although you can donate however much you'd like, according to the in-museum map, they ask for per ride. There are signs near the carousel that people weighing less than 225 pounds are allowed to sit on a horse. However, they do have stationary carriages that have no weight limit. Look out the window as the carousel circles around and around and around again. You can see gorgeous views of the city of Albany, including the Egg Corning Towers and several of the other popular nearby venues. If you walk and arrive at the reception desk with a museum security guard, you've gone the opposite way to get there, and you must pass through the elevator area, walking back the opposite way. Take a look at the whale skull up on the 4th floor. This whale skull is from a different whale than the one you found on the 1st floor museum level, but they are the same species. Revel in the beauty of the 1932 Packard down the back side of the 4th floor of the museum. Look towards the Wall Street exhibit here. The exhibit's biggest portion is the stock exchange stock trading post, but there are many signs in the area to read. The lighting and layout isn't the best for pictures, but it's still worth checking out. Take a peek at an automat machine. Read about its short history on the placard beside it from Hand and Hardart. Find the plow blade. It's hanging from the ceiling via cables. It might be hidden behind some flags, but look for the other agricultural pieces on the ground in front of you, then look up and view it. Look at the blue 1931 Pierce Arrow. It can be seen from almost every single elevator ride once you arrive from the trip up. Read up about the 1910 Babcock Farms yellow milk delivery wagon at the museum. View the hansom cab and conservation department's plane. The hansom cab used to be used as an old-fashioned horse-drawn taxi. Throughout the 4th floor exhibits, you'll see some international flags flying above. You can take a picture of these, but these aren't the best pieces on display on this floor's gallery space. Look at the sailplane and read a little about its history. Its tail number is in 397 rate. Look at the canoe that is hanging from the ceiling. There's no signage, and the only indication that it's a big to-do is from the museum map. Look at the barrel and Carol Soucek circular hanging items near the restrooms on the 4th floor. They might not be too major in the museum, but they shouldn't be missed either. Take a peek at the Salamanca back bar, if they ever open the curtains near the Carol Sowsick and barrel. Although it's large and something you can't miss, you might want to take a quick peek. This area is undergoing some changes, but if you can get to see this area, go check it out, or ask a museum employee with a museum map in hand how you can see this exhibit. You will be very pleased that you asked. Take a peek at the Silver Creek flower packer machine. This item is also behind a construction curtain, but can be seen right next to the Salamanca back bar. IT not listed on the map, but it's surely contained in the museum. Take a look at the metal testing machine, also nearby to the Salamanca back bar area. The information panel describes why this machine is in the museum, but it's got some history to it, but not enough to mention it here. Take the fourth floor elevators down to leave using the reverse directions to get here.